No, 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 no.
What's up, YouTube? This is Brian, bringing you another deck profile today. This time it is Performapole Odd Eyes Magicians, with a little bit of tech that I think works pretty well. So let's get right into it here. So first off, we have triple Pendulum Sorcerer. This is an obvious choice. Kind of searches the vast majority of your deck, really gets your plays going. If you want to run a more pure Magician build, you could cut this card out, but I think that the Performable Search Engine is way too strong to not run. So that's the reason for 3 of this card. Next up, we got triple Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. It is an Odd Eyes deck, so this is obvious. Even in scale, it's typically not terrible due to the pretty large level of high-level monsters we run. And if you do put it in scale in the end phase, you can pop them off and search like a monkey board or something to really get your plays rolling. So triple dragon. Next we got triple magical abductor. This card is like one of the MVPs of the deck. I rarely am unable to get its effect to go off, because typically if you have like this in a terraforming, definitely going to have it. Even this in just a straight up sky iris, you're definitely going to be able to pull off an extra search, which is just huge. We got 2 Performable Odd Eyes Unicorn. This is one of our high scales, searchable off Sky Iris and all your performable search cards. Really great card, and it helps boost your Odd Eyes attack, which can make a big difference, especially because he does double damage. So I'm really a big fan of this card. Maybe thinking about bumping it up to 3, but for right now 2 has been working great. Then we got 2 Zhangxi Magician. I know most people only run 1, even in a pure Magician build, but he is level 7, so it helps you go into your rank 7 XZs, and he can negate light monsters, which is really good against, especially in the Monarch matchup. Occasionally Cosmo, it depends. You can negate like a tin can or something, but so really big fan of this card, liking it at 2. Next up, we got 2 Dragon Pit. This is our other high scale. If you have a Magician in the other one, you can discard and it works like an MST. So that's kind of nice, especially because Pendulums die so hard to back row. This really helps you try to clear out those Solemn Strikes and things like that before you Pendulum Summon. Then we got 2 Mad Spectre Unicorn. Most people are running 3 in this deck. I only like 2 because it's not that good against Cosmo. It is good against Monarch and BA. But where I play at locals, most people are, you see a lot of Cosmo, and it's just not that good against them, so I'm only running 2. Depending on where you play or what you're anticipating for the event, you might want to bump it up to 3 if you're anticipating a lot of Monarch, a lot of BA. I would definitely think about moving it up, but for me, 2 is working pretty well. Next we got 2 Archvenus Centric. This card, pretty much, I only just use as an MST. In a pinch, you can use him as a scale if you really need to pendulum out like a sorcerer or something to, get rolling. But I just run him because he is essentially just an MST that can also be used as a scale if you really have to. Now for the one-ofs, I run 1 Joker, 1 Monkey Board. These are obvious. They're at 1, you run 1. Really gets your performable plays running. Then I run 1 Luster, 1 Wisdom Eye, 1 Noble Dragon. So I run Luster. I don't run any other Drago Slayers. He's the only one I run. And the reason I run him is if you have a pretty good hand with Magical Abductor, you can search him with Abductor and just make your Ignister play that much easier, as opposed to trying to use Noble Dragon and the level 5 Odd Eyes cards. So I only run him just almost essentially just a straight up search off Abductor. So I'm really liking it actually, because frequently you'll have enough cards where you don't really need that Abductor search and you can just go for this and guarantee an Ignister next turn. And then Wisdom Eye is at 1 obviously. If you have a Performable or Magician, you can just drop another Magician in the other scale, so it kind of works out as either scale. Noble Dragon just for your synchro plays. And he's pretty good to discard off of a Dragon Pit because he can summon himself out of the grave. Alright, next up we got Performable Trump Girl and Odd Eyes Light Phoenix. Now, I run Performable Trump Girl over Odd Eyes Fusion simply because it's a lot easier to search in this deck. If you have Sorcerer, Monkey Board, Joker, any of your performable searchers, you can search her out and then just normal summon her and go for your Vortex play. And Odd Eyes Fusion, you have to search with Sky Iris or Drawd, obviously. Most people are only running one, so it's like a search off Sky Iris, and most of the time I need to use Sky Iris to search for a scale or for, another monster just to help, toughen up my board. And I'd much rather not have to search my fusion card off of it, so that's the reason I'm running Performable Trump Girl. And then Performable Odd Eyes Light Phoenix. This card is literally just a searchable low scale off Iris. That's its main use. It can also bounce up a Performable's attack, which is really good if you have like Joker and Odd Eyes Unicorn in scale, because you can just do huge damage over monsters that your opponent controls. But also with Noble Dragon Magician, you can go for a rank 8 synchro play. The only rank 8 I run is Ignister, so you can make Ignister with him and Noble Dragon. It doesn't come up often, but when it does, it's nice to have that play available. Then we're down to non-pendulum monsters. I run 2 Apex Avians. 3 can get a little cloggy. I know it's nice to have like 2 on field, but if you open 2 or 3 of them, it can really slow you down. So 2 is, I think, the way to go right now. Then for a tech choice, I run 2 Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. Now the reason for this is all you have to do is be able to pendulum summon them out, and you can search the one mass change you run and go like turn 1 or turn 2 Dark Law, which can be huge, especially against like Monarchs, BA. It just shuts those decks off. So really, really great card, and you don't need to run a real big engine. I only run 4 cards, and these are 2 of them, and it just works really well. So I'm a big fan of this right now, probably going to keep it in, at least for the time. Next for spells, I run 2 Terraforming, 2 Sky Iris. You really want to see Sky Iris as early as possible because it is such a great card. Protects your scales, you can pop and search, so I think this is the right ratio. I was running 3 Sky Iris, 2 Terraforming, but it clogged too much. I'd open 2 or 3 of them, and it was just undesirable. So I think this is a good ratio. Then triple Pendulum Call, obviously. We run enough Magicians where this card is almost never dead, and it really helps you fill your hand and, just get a lot of stuff going. And if you do have Noble Dragon in your hand, you can pitch it with Pendulum Call, and it doesn't hurt you at all because you can summon out a grave. So, yeah, really great card. Then I do one Rhoda, 1 Mass Change. This is just for the Shadow Mist. Rhoda, I run the Rhoda over a 3rd Shadow Mist just because if you have Abductor, it puts another counter on her. And then obviously Mass Change to search off the Shadow Mist. Then I do run 2 MSTs. This deck does not like back row, loses to back row really hard. So this combined with the Archfiend Ascenders and the Dragon Pits, you have 6 different cards that remove back row. So you almost always have one of them, which is really good because a lot of decks will set 1 or 2. And if you can hit a Solemn Strike or something like that, it really helps protect your plays and make sure they go off. And then last, 1 Upstart Goblin. This is a 41 card deck, I think, maybe 42, but the reason I run Upstart Goblin is just for the Abductor counter. Giving your opponent the 1,000 life points is never a big deal, and it's just essentially just a free counter. Alright, now for extra deck, I run for fusions, Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. Obviously, you can, summon him out. He can negate by shuffling back. He can bounce an attack position monster. Really great card. One of the staples of this deck. And then, obviously, Dark Law, just to go for off the Shadow Mist. Then for Synchros, I run Ignister. Obviously a really good card. You can go for it with either Noble Dragon and level 5 Odd Eyes, which happens on rare occasion, or just Luster Pendulum and any level 4. Obviously pop a card, shuffle a card, really great, especially in the mirror match. It really just kills the mirror match if you can put this on board. I run 1 Clearwing Synchro for the Noble Dragon, because with Noble Dragon, if it's in graveyard or hand, you can activate it. It drops an Odd Eyes by 3 levels and then summons itself. So you drop Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon to level 4, summon itself, and you can go for 7 synchros. So I run the 1 Clearwing, good against Cosmo, generally a good card. I don't go into it a whole lot, but it is a really good card to go into. And then obviously the Meteor Burst Dragon, just another Odd Eyes. It's good for rank 7 plays, just because it's really only good against Cosmo. But against Cosmo, this card just wrecks. They can't go for their ships. They can't tag out in the battle phase. None of that. For XYZs, these are rank 4s, Castel and Abyss Dweller. These two are really good cards. Abyss Dweller, really good against Monarchs. Castel, just for spot removal. These two are pretty self-explanatory. And then 1 Giant Hand. I have been thinking about taking this card out, but it is good against Monarch. Like if you go first and you can make the Giant Hand, when they go Adia, try to go for Eidos, you can just negate it and it really slows their plays down. So I really like the Giant Hand really solely for the Monarch matchup. Might take it out if Monarchs get hit on the next ban list, but for now it's working pretty well. Then I do run a Gaga Cowboy. This card has actually won me a few games, just like having the rank 4s on board, going for it in main phase 2. You could sub this out for any rank 4 you want. It's more of just kind of a filler card, honestly. Majestra Paladin, the Ascending Draco Slayer, kind of a rank 4 Pendulum staple. You can search out Luster, search out whatever you need to like really help you go off the next turn or whatever. I don't go into them a whole lot because usually this deck has a good amount of resources at its disposal. But when you really need, especially in like a mirror match, you need to go for that Luster, you can go into him and try to get into Ignister next turn. So, good card. I do run 1 Utopia Beyond. Now, this card, there's not that many like level 6s I run to target for it, but like Monkey Board, Kieran, and then Darklaw are the only targets. If the Darklaw is dead or you're trying to go for game, you can overlay him with any of your 6s and it makes the attack 0, which is really huge for Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon because he does double damage. So if you make their attack 0 and you boost him with Odd Eyes Unicorn, that's going to be game right there. So if you go for this card, you better be going for game. Then for 7s, I run Flare Metal Dragon and Big Eye. These are like my generic 7s. Flare Metal helps you go for game. Even if you only get your opponent down to like 2,000, 1,500 life points, you can put this out, and they really have to get rid of it quickly, otherwise they're going to lose, especially if you like clear their field and things like that. So this card's really good late game. And then Big Eye is situationally good. It's not any good against Cosmo because they can't be targeted, obviously, but certain, I mean, like if Monarch matchup, it's decent. So there's just certain scenarios where you want to go into the Big Eye. So it can be useful, it all depends. Then for the final monster, I run 2 Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. Now this card's great because you can overlay like 2 Odd Eyes or any of your 7s and go into it, and then when an attack is declared, you can detach a material from it and negate the attack, and then immediately after that you can summon an Odd Eyes from your graveyard. So if you use 2 Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragons to go into this, you can detach 1, negate an attack, and summon it back. So essentially it pays for itself, and then when it's destroyed, you can summon an Odd Eyes monster out of your deck, usually Vortex Dragon. So if you don't go for Vortex Dragon like through the normal means, you can go for this, negate the attack, summon back your Odd Eyes, and then you can hit it with Sky Iris to go for your Vortex, because it doesn't have to be destroyed, it just has to be sent to the graveyard, which is really huge. Alright, so that's about it for this deck. Like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you guys think. Pendulum Sorcerer might be going to 1 at some point here, so you might get another deck profile without him. But for now, that's what I got. Thank you.